How long do bonobos usually live? It's not known exactly because they haven't been studied that long in the wild. There aren't enough longitudinal studies, but people think they probably live to be maybe about 40 years in the wild and maybe up to 60 in captivity like chimpanzees.
What are the social and behavioral differences that you're seeing between wild bonobos and captive bonobos, kind of like wolf versus?
Well, that's a great question. You know, there aren't very many captive bonobos in the world. There's about 100 in the US at some zoos. And if you go and see them, they're San Diego, Cincinnati, Columbus, Jacksonville, Fort Worth, Memphis, Milwaukee. I believe that's all. And you'll notice that a lot of times they're bald. They overgroom, you know, because they're bored. They also have more sex. If you read Franz de Waal's books, because they don't, bonobos in the wild, you know, they have plenty of sex, but they don't have time because they have to forage in the forest and take care of themselves. Whereas in the zoo, they have a lot of time on their hands. So I think those are two of the main differences. But you know, bonobos are so incredibly intelligent that they catch on to human, you know, human mores that studied kanzi, the bonobo I was showing you. They're really looking at this bonobo human culture, how the bonobos are, the next generation of bonobos is becoming more human-like in their small colony because, you know, because they're living with people. Yeah.
Is there much known about their interactions with other non-human primates? How they get along, or do they avoid them or cooperate?
Well, they, in the forest, they do actually travel with some monkey species from time to time. You know, the monkeys are usually higher up in the canopy. Ascanius, we have a number of monkey species that share the habitat with bonobos. They occasionally, there do seem to be cultural differences. In the past decade, there's been more research now going on with bonobos, but there's still a huge amount to learn. I mean, that's one of the things we're now about to bring in some new researchers and opening it up to students who want to study them. But there is evidence at one site, Louis Cotal, bonobos are hunting monkeys. At Kokolopuri and Wamba, the Japanese site, we've only observed occasional, like opportunistic grabbing of a monkey or a flying squirrel, you know, and then they will eat it, but they don't have, you know, chimpanzees have hunting parties that are, you know, really premeditated and go after the monkeys and devour them. But this has something more analogous to that, has been observed at one site. But they don't hunt, you know, on a regular basis the way chimps do. That's basically, they live in harmony mostly with the other primates. But they're, you know, they don't ever share habitat with chimps.
What about the bonobo that was able to communicate through the computer? What came out from that?
Well, that research is still going on, and it's really fascinating. You know, Kanzi, you know, outperformed a 2.5-year-old child in one of the early studies where Sue Savage-Rumbaugh was actually wearing a welder's mask so that he wouldn't have any visual cues, because there were so many naysayers who didn't want to believe that apes could learn human language. And so they really had to prove it. But so she gave him a series of novel sentences like, go get the shirt that's outside and put it in the microwave. You know, something that normally he would never be asked to do. And he did everything correctly. He's really amazing.
Other than man, do they have any natural limits?
Leopards, but not much. People are really their only predator.
You said that you know our orphans from Coxe. Have you observed bonobos adopting orphans like we do?
It has been observed some that bonobos, you know, the group will take a bonobo, not really an orphan, but if the mother dies. And we haven't tried, there's only a brand new reintroduction program that another project, friend of bonobos, Lola Bonobo, is trying with some of these, because there's so many went to the sanctuary, over 50 bonobos. That's, for every orphan that is rescued, at least one bonobo and probably more were killed. So they're trying to do an experiment of reintroducing some of those orphans, but they can't, it's not being done where wild bonobos are extant at this point.
Are the females larger than the males?
No, they're not. But they bond together. The males still are larger physically, and the ranking male is the son of the ranking female. But if male bonobos don't bully the females because the females band together. Smart strategy. Yeah.
Do bonobos sing or play music?
Do they sing music?
Sing or play music?
Or play music? Well, I didn't include that slide, but those bonobos, Kanzi and Pambanisha, they've actually played music with Peter Gabriel and Paul McCartney. And they're pretty good too. But in the forest, they beat on buttresses, they do some drumming kind of things, and their voices are very high pitched. So it sounds almost like birds sometimes. Chimps have a lower guttural hoot sound, but bonobos sound more like birds, whistles.
You say that the clock is ticking. How is the level of funding and support for saving the bonobos going? And who's getting that money? And how is it among the groups that are getting the money from that?
Well, thanks, Rob. I was in a really good mood. So you brought that up. No, it's really an issue. Bonobos have received the least support of any ape, and the threats are so dire that it's really a race against time. And unfortunately, you'd like to think that conservationists, people trying to do good, would be into cooperating to achieve a common goal. But unfortunately, the large NGOs we have found in our experience tend to be quite corporate and greedy. And we've just had a David and Goliath battle with an NGO that was our best partner and is now taking over our work that was built on our back for 10 years in one site. It's just really stupid, and there's no reason for it. So yes, there is a real need for increased funding. One of the things, if you see the brochures in the back, that we're trying to encourage now is membership, which is to get more people to join, because we have monthly expenses that are growing. The work is growing exponentially, and we need to pay salaries every month to all those trackers out there. More than 200 people we support every month, and that number is growing. So we really encourage people to sign up and give a monthly automatic donation of whatever you can do, even as little as $10 a month. Really, really will make a difference. But we have needs, that are increasing, and we really need to raise a few $1 million right now to keep our work
Don't people,
going.
including the president, acknowledge that your group is the most effective?
Yes, it has been, and the book, Denis Béchard did extensive research. Our work has been acknowledged, and it's not to say that other groups aren't doing good work too, and we try to cooperate with them. It's really a shame that we're encountering sort of chimp-like behavior among the conservationists. But thanks.
As a follow-up to that, the work, not too many people in America, maybe even around the world, know about bonobos. So in terms of an awareness campaign and increasing just the knowledge of this fourth grade ape, I know we've talked a little bit about the possibility of doing a large event. I think you wanted to call it a live ape. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that vision, and maybe, the fact that Paul McCartney played with bonobos. What is that? I mean, how can we raise the awareness?
Well, thanks. It's really, really important. And that is an idea that's in the works, is to do a large music festival called Live Ape, that we don't want to be just a one-off, but to become kind of a multimedia movement, hopefully, recurring concerts or festivals. We are reaching out to the hippie rock stars to support the hippie chimps, and so far we've gotten some interest, and it's really something we're really working on right now to make a reality. But raising awareness, is so important. We want, just like we're trying to make conservation or go viral in the Congo by expanding it with the communities there, we need help helping, bonobos to go viral, knowledge of bonobos, with social media, and just, there's a lot any individual can do to help raise awareness. So I appreciate that. Yeah, and I hope you'll help us with Live Aid.
What types of illnesses do they have? Is it similar to like what humans have, or is there like one predominantly that affects them?
Yes, bonobos are really susceptible to illness. In fact, the person who asked about predators, I didn't mention bugs because those little critters tend to be the worst kind out there sometimes. But yes, bonobos are very susceptible to human illnesses like pneumonia. There haven't been any incidences of bonobos getting Ebola, but gorillas and chimps have been wiped out in certain areas from the Ebola virus. So they tend to have a bit more sensitive system than chimps. In captivity, bonobos tend to not survive sometimes because they're just a little bit more sensitive. I hope that answers your question. But they get colds, so you really have to be careful when you have people and humans and bonobos in close proximity.
You say they have one pup in 4 years. What was the birth rate?
Yes, every 4 or 5 years.
What's the gestation?
It's about the same as people. It's about 9 months. And actually, women who work with bonobos in zoos in captive settings, often the human caretakers, their cycles will start being the same as the bonobos. Be interesting. How big do they get? They get to be between 3 and 4 feet tall if they're standing up, and anywhere between 60, 70 pounds and up to 120. The females are smaller. Kanzi. Well, very important role. The group coexists, and the males often are the ones to lead the direction when the group is moving to a different location for foraging. But they also help with childcare. Bonobo males support the group.
You were saying that you would perhaps share with us some of your stories from your time working in Atlanta that led you to working with the bonobos. Can you share some of that?
Sure. I was very, very fortunate when I left National Geographic and wanted to just investigate bonobos. One of my colleagues there suggested that I go and volunteer at the lab of Sue Savage-Rumbaugh. And I was very lucky that Sue took me in and allowed me to have direct contact with the bonobos. We just hit it off. And so they had a system of trails in these forts. So the bonobos would ask for, what they wanted or where they wanted to go, and we'd go on these wonderful hikes through the woods. And Pam Benicia was Kanzi's younger sister, half-sister. And we would play hide-and-go-seek, and the researcher, Pam Benicia, and I got to hide together, and we were down on the banks of the stream, and when the researcher's yelling, Pam Benicia, where are you? And she's just, holding each other, and she's looking at me, and it was just like, being a kid again and playing in the woods. And she, she would groom me, and very, very intimate, and she'd break off a twig. Well, first of all, she bit off all my fingernails. And then, and then she'd take a bite off a twig and make it really sharp and go under each one. And then if I had a bug bite or a scratch, she would point and then go on the keyboard and say, hurt, bad, and then I'd have to assure her that hurt it's not bad, it's okay. And just, really, really wonderful experiences like that with both her and Kanzi. It was truly a gift.
I know there's a documentary film about work and bonobo conservation, and speaking of awareness, is it out, or when will it be out, and how can people see it and tell people about it?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, there's one of our interns got inspired to do her master's thesis in filmmaking on bonobos, and she did such a great job. Her film, her name is Irene Magafan, and her film is called The Bonobo Connection, and it's narrated by Ashley Judd, and it's out on the film festival circuit. It's been winning awards, and I know that she is planning to have a screening here in Asheville sometime in the near future. So I'd be happy to let you know about that, and of course we'll have that. If you go to our Facebook page or our website, we also will be advertising, alerting people to that. But also, that's something that if people at Mars Hill were interested, we could always arrange a screening with you if you'd like. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you all so very much.